FLOSSTUBE. Welcome to my channel, Stitching in South Jersey. My name is Debbie, and today is Thursday, May 28th, 2026, and it was a beautiful sunny day. I had plenty of light in this room, and now it's cloudy and very windy, and Killer clearly knows I'm trying to film a floss tube, and my neighbor has decided to cut down trees right outside of that window. So we'll see how this goes. Maybe I'll be filming this twice. This is floss tube number 19, and it is my April stitching update. Full disclosure, a lot of this went on in May. I'm running way behind, so my April is bleeding into May because my March bled into April. You know how it goes. But you don't care, right? Doesn't matter. So, and I didn't even need to disclose that. I'm just in a disclosey kind of mood today. So anyway, thank you for everyone who watched my last floss tube. If you are returning, thank you so much. I very much value you coming back to see what is normally a hot mess. I appreciate it. And if you're new, stick with the hot mess. I promise. Maybe you'll see something you like. Maybe you'll hear something you like. But if not, thanks for giving it a try. So anyway, so here is our agenda. We are going to do whips. I have 9 whips from April bled into May. I have no finishes, a few really close, and no new starts, but I do have 2 new starts planned, and we'll get to that in plans. So we'll do whips first, and then we will do who I'm watching. That is YouTube right there. I thought we'd have something nice and pretty to watch, and instead we're watching a commercial. It'll be back. Then we'll do, so whips, who I'm watching, plans. It's the little things that we are grateful for. I would be very grateful if YouTube showed less commercials when I'm watching pretty much anything. Just show less. Book talk, binge talk, and then at the end, I'd asked you guys about adding a true crime story segment. And I said I was going to keep it under 10 minutes, and I believe that I did accomplish that. And if everything goes the way it's supposed to go, at the end of this floss tube, it will roll seamlessly right into my story that I actually filmed a few weeks ago. If not, I don't know what's going to happen. It should. So we'll see. So let's get started. We are 3 minutes in. That took a long time to say a whole lot of nothing. I hope everyone is well. I hope you all had a nice extended Memorial Day weekend. If you are military or military adjacent, I know that it is not a happy Memorial Day. It is a time of reflection, and I believe we all appreciate the sacrifices for those who sacrificed, and their families, their loved ones, and their circle, so that I can stand here for 4 minutes and say nothing, but I'm free to do that. So I certainly understand having a military daughter. Maybe I didn't always understand it, but I understand it now. But I've always appreciated anyone who is willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. So for those military and military adjacent and those that can appreciate that, I hope it was a time of reflection. And for those of you that it's just a nice long weekend to just kick back because of those who sacrifice, I hope you ate a lot of hamburgers and hot dogs, because I did. So we'll see how the scale goes tomorrow at Weight Watchers. Prob's not so good. Anyway, all right, let us get into it. 9 whips. Not too many stories to go with them. So the first one is Santas of Fable and Fantasy. This was in Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine. I'm looking down because I'm reading. Cross Stitch and Country Crafts magazine, November, December 1992. I was a youngster. I only had 1/3 of my children then. So that's how long ago it was. Just do the math. I stitched this on, this is not when I started it. I started it in July of 2019, but I've saved the magazine because I always knew one day when I was not busy, you know, wiping noses and packing lunches and changing diapers and the things, I was going to stitch this, and I'm very much enjoying it. It's stitched on 14 count vintage country mocha because I started it in 2019 and I didn't really know the difference. I wasn't into like the fancy fabrics and all of that yet. But, pet peeve, when you're doing a beautiful, beautiful design, Mr. and Mrs. Magazine editor, please don't cut it across 2 pages. I'm begging you. Please don't. I know there's not always a way to do that, but I hope you're seeing this whole thing, but it is across 2 pages. And I am now working, I finished this guy, so I have 2 more to go, and I was working down here. So it's a lot, like it's all the way across here. It's a true sampler, right? And those Santas are no joke backstitch. As it was in the 90s, if you're not backstitching, you're not one of the cool kids. So we all backstitched, and here is where I am. I'm really having a hard time seeing. I'm probably standing too close to the camera, sorry. And as you can see, this guy is not yet backstitched, but this guy is. And man, oh man, look at that difference, right? Worth the backstitching. This is my favorite needle minder, by the way. I have no idea where I got it, and I'm sure it was illegal because I'm pretty sure Charlie Brown isn't licensed. I don't know. Anyway, I love it. So the back stitching makes a huge difference. So that makes it all worth it, I feel like, in the end. But we know how I feel about back stitching. I say it every time. Sorry. Okay. Next up, Ornaments All Around by Glendon Place. This is stitched on 18 count Heritage by Picture This Plus. And I started this April 10th, 2022. So this is a very, I'm not even really sure why I did this. This is a very orangey kind of fabric, orangey brown in the photo. This is mine, but give me a minute because I got to figure out. There we go. That's upright. See, it's this all around thing that gets me. This fabric, which you probably cannot see. That's worse. That might be a little better. It's, well, you know, if you know PTP, you know Heritage is a little greenish. I guess I decided since it was going to be all Christmas stuff, I wanted it not on orange, you know. But I'm having fun with it. Lotta Krynic. Lotta. But I finished, I think this time I finished this. And any gaps you see are beads. So this is going to be a long-term one. And I started it 2022, so I'm not really making a lot of progress. But what I've discovered, and I think we talked about this, is I am starting to very much enjoy, if I'm getting close to a milestone, a finish, a page finish, an object finish, I'm sticking with it. I'm less in a rush to get 9 or 10 a month in than I am to make progress on the ones that I have. And I did not buy anything from any needlework market or anything. Didn't even really look because I really am focused, and not because my whip count is high, but simply because I'm enjoying what I have. Big red ball. I do get distracted, sometimes from a magazine and sometimes from a life event, as you'll see, or an event. But typically this year, and the end of last year. I'm just focused on like, let's get something done. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, moving on. Turn the page. Okay. Next is from a magazine. Honest to God, I have no idea. Oh, Cross Stitcher. This is quite literally the only photo of this design. I do believe it's on the cover, but I have no idea where the magazine actually is. This is it. What you see here is the entire design. Like, yep, cuts off. It's not a full clock. It's not, it's a little crazy. But not as crazy as this. Like, this actually is a full clock. And this is one, let me take, so you could get the full effect. I want to take the needle minder off. Ooh, I haven't, okay, maybe I won't do that. This is one that I did something a little different, and I added a color. The colors in it are black, white, and 666. Given another opportunity, I would not use 666. I would use a deeper red, because as you see, this is the same color as this. But when it's up against black, it still looks a little orangey, but not as orangey as this bad boy right here. When it's up, when it's up against the gold. Isn't that weird? It's weird, right? The way colors work. But I am really close to finished. So I just have to fill in this big mama right here, because I haven't, they're not full crosses. And I'm not necessarily following the color scheme. Like, that's white in the picture, and I'm doing it in gold because I can, because I'm the boss of me. But look how close I am to done. Like, there's just a few little things to the other side of this. So I am keeping this out, and I am bringing it to my craft meetup and working on it there when I'm not crocheting my new grandbaby's baby blanket, which she will probably be headed to college by the time it's finished. Just can't get through this. It's a beautiful blanket, but I think I made it too long. I kind of just wanted it to be like, go over a car seat or her infant seat or whatever, and stretch yarn, good yarn, but it's stretched, and now I've got this big mama going on, and it takes a long time to just get one row done. So it's sort of annoying me. But anyway, I bring that, and I'm now bringing, now that 99 bottles is done, I'm now bringing clocks to my craft meetups and trying to get it done. I almost stayed with it, in which case it would be done right now, but you wouldn't be seeing anything else. Okay, moving on, another magazine. 'Twas the Night, Cooler Design, Sandy Orton. This is out of a magazine, but I know for a fact you can buy it like in booklet form, because everybody needs yet another Christmas design. And it's crazily, it's not that big. It's really not, and you'll see. So none of the back stitching is done, none of the writing is done. And here's where I am. Start, end. And I worked all in here. Oh, from here I can actually see that that's a house. It's kind of a creepy Santa, but again, no back stitch. So it's really not that big. It's just not a priority for me right now. Although, like, I want everything to be a priority, so I'm not really sure how you get to be a priority project in my world. I think I just feel like I'm making good progress, and that's when you become a priority. My least favorite project. Pageant Kings. Oh, wait. I forgot to tell you. Clocks was stitched on 16 count Sage Summer Khaki. Started it January 22nd of 2020, and 'Twas the Night I started December 28th of 2020, and that's on 18 count Vintage Country Mocha, which I'm sure everybody could see that was what it was. All right. Pageant Kings. This is out of the Treasures in Needlework premiere issue. Little Paula Vaughn on the front for you. And here is this beautiful, beautiful project. And I cannot stand to work on it. I just can't. I can't. It's stitched on 16 count Mystic by Picture This Plus. Beautiful fabric. So this, it called for denim. Couldn't find denim anything. Probably because it was 100 years ago. 16 count Mystic by Picture This Plus. And you know, Picture This Plus can be a little loose. And I feel my needle sliding around a little. And I started this October 5th, 2022. And this is all I've gotten done. I had to redo all the white because it looked garbagey. And this purple is like long stitches. And it's really hard to do long stitches because I'm constantly poking through the Aida. So I just put all the long stitches out because my diamond was not looking like a diamond. And I put cross stitches and half stitches and quarter stitches and whatever was necessary. And I was working in here somewhere. I just need to get through this. But again, I probably gave this a day and a half this month because I'm like, yeah, you're going nowhere and you're my least favorite project. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's harder for me to see this really dark fabric. I don't usually use a really dark fabric. I don't know what it is. All I know is when it comes up, I go, ugh. So maybe next time my goal will be to finish that diamond. And then I move on, and I think it's like a camel. And yeah, like that'll be more fun. That's like a normal motif. And there are a ton of specialty stitches in here. And as I go, I will make the decision whether to do it in specialty or whether to just do it in cross stitch or whatever. I'll figure it out. Next is Quaker Christmas Sampler. It's weird. Almost everything came out of a magazine on this random tiny decision spin. We know how random. Nothing is random in this world right now. Quaker Christmas Sampler by Nancy Waller out of Just Cross Stitch magazine, December 2021. It is stitched on 16 count Sage Summer Khaki. I started it February 18th, 2021. And it came out in, you know what I mean. It came out in sections, pieces. The word will come to me in like 10 minutes and it won't matter anymore. So that's the whole thing, right? And here is where I've gotten to. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I am now at a page finish. I can't remember, but I feel like that's the whole page. I don't think I missed anything. That church, woo! That was a lot of stitching. But, you know, it was such an accomplishment because that took up so much of that page. So it was more than I thought it was going to be when I started it, but not as much as in my brain I now think it is. Next, Sunflower Inn by Artisy. I'm stitching this on 18 count platinum by Zweigart. Sorry for the glare. This has been on my wish list for a very long time. I started this November 12th, 2025 and gave it very, very little love. So it was just like, let me get it started. So now, this is where I've gotten to. And this is days upon days upon days of stitching. I'm not exaggerating. And I'm not a slow stitcher. I'm slower on Pattern Keeper than I am on paper. And by the way, shout out to, I didn't write it down, but my commenter who told me how to change the settings on Pattern Keeper. So when I realize I've missed a stitch in a different color, I don't have to frog to see what that color was, because you can make it translucent so you can still see what's under the finished stitch. Like you could see that it's a black arrow, or you could see that it's a black circle or whatever, a red star. And you don't have to frog out that whole thing. So thank you. I think her name was Heidi. I'm sorry, I never looked. I'm just trying to get this done because I'm way behind. Today's May 28th. Anyway, back to Sunflower Inn. I love working on this. I will be really happy when I'm not in the sky anymore. Sky and trees, you know? I mean, they're necessary. I know they're necessary. I tend not to jump around. I know some people do. They're like, okay, had enough of that in the top left. I'm going to the bottom right. That would probably go really badly for me. So, not going to do it. I'm just going to complain about too much sky. And then I think I head right into trees. So, you'll be hearing about that the next time around. Next is Cozy Cove by Dimensions. Love, 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 love this. Kit, but will not use kit anything the next time, because it's just not my fabric choice. But look at where I'm getting to. I am feeling good about this one. Done the sky, got through that ocean, working on the dunes right there, a couple lighthouses in the distance, feeling good. And it was fun, and I stuck with this longer than I should have, really longer than I should have. Probably, trying not to have an avalanche, probably 5 days. Last but not least, and I'm still actually working on this, so you're gonna see a needle in it. Sorry about that. Because I just yanked it off of my stand to do this. Black Cat by Candlelight. This is a favorite, even though I'm allergic to cats. It is stitched on 18 count Ivory Ada by Zweigart. I started at May 1, 2020. And I'm still up here in the books. Still in the books. And that cat is gonna be like no joke for real. But I'm having fun with it. It is on Pattern Keeper. And see, when I stand way far back, you can clearly see their books. So my dilemma is this. I am still currently working on this. I think I may finish this page. Why wouldn't I, right? I don't know how many stitches that is. If you're good at stitch count, is that 500? Is that 1,000? Seems worth a couple of days work for me to say, like, start new page. That's what I think I'm going to do with that. So, okay. No avalanche, and that is currently everything that I worked on in April/May. Oh boy, there goes good old YouTube again. So who I'm watching? Not watching a lot. I watch Brenda the Handwork Maniac. I always like her Mania. I've been watching her Mania videos for years, and I like her method. Now that she's retired, she seems to be zipping along, and I thought she always zipped along. But other than that, I cannot think of a floss tuber I've been watching. I have been watching on YouTube a lot of true crime podcasts. Bella Fiore, she's a young Australian young lady. And she's been on YouTube for years, but apparently, because I did a little research into her, once she started her true crime podcast, it really took off. But she's like an influencer. She does beauty products and all that kind of stuff. She's young, she's beautiful, she travels a lot. Travel podcasts. The other one is Stephanie Harlow. She's also young, not as young as Bella, but young. And she really tells a good story. And I like Bella and Stephanie Harlow because they do not hesitate to give you their opinion. And I like that because, you know, when you're shy like me, you like to have someone give their opinion. Good thing I'm alone in the house because you would hear cackling laughter after that remark. In fact, I give my opinion so much that from the time my kids were little, whenever I got laryngitis, you would have thought we won the lottery. Happiest kid you ever saw. And Joey, forget about it. That goes without saying, right? Okay, so not really like a lot. I'm listening to my audiobooks a little more. I do listen to true crime podcasts I just listened to. I started listening to 13th Juror, and I cannot remember who the host of that is, but it's a really cool concept because so many of these are sames, right? She takes a case and dives into it from the side of the prosecution. That's one episode. And then the side of the defense. That's the other episode, the second episode. And she, you know, she's really good, so you get the whole backstory. Like, for example, the last one I listened to, it's not even always current. Lizzie Borden, right? So you hear it from the people that prosecuted Lizzie Borden, and then you hear it from Lizzie Borden's side. You don't hear it from them because they're obviously no longer with us. You hear it, you hear their sides, and then you kind of draw your own conclusions, right? But it's interesting to hear that because there's so much that you don't know. And she'll tell you that. She'll say, you know, prosecution couldn't get this in, or defense couldn't get this in, because it's all based on how the jury trial went. Like, she uses that real jury trial, like facts of the case, and then how the jury trial went. Killer's looking to go outside. She's just gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait, princess, a few minutes. Okay, so my plans. So I have two plans. One of them is to work monogamously on this USA tier for Mary and Elizabeth. So when I get to a stopping point on Black Cat by Candlelight, I am going to work on this without stopping until it is finished, and then I will frame it, and it will be up hopefully within 30 days. That's my plan. And I am stitching it on this teeny weeny 1/16 of a yard of 18 count Oracle by Picture This Plus. And it's a very grit. This is looking nothing like, it's probably a little closer. It's like a light gray. I do not believe that is what she called for. She did not. She just said 14 count. So I am doing it on 18 count. So it will be smaller still. So I measured. It should fit. Hopefully it'll fit. But that's a big plan. That is the next plan once I finish up with Black Cat. Next is Cooler Classic Charts. I did the baby boy shoes for my grandson, my grandman, when he was born. And I believe I am just going to duplicate this. I couldn't find any little girl charts that I loved. And maybe they sell this in little girl chart, but I'm just gonna pick pink colors and just kind of duplicate the chart again for my grand lady. Or as my son calls her, the $1 million baby, because that's about it. 3 weeks in the NICU, mommy was in the hospital for 3 months. They're lucky it was only $1 million. But I'm gonna do this start to finish, or maybe after I finish clocks, I'll do this and bring this to my craft group because she's here, so she's not going anywhere, so she'll get it when she gets it. And I put it on a board. You know, like I have my cottage of the month. I put the magnets on the back, and you know, I do a flat back to it, and put it on a board. I will get her a board as well and give it to them. I'm sure my daughter-in-law doesn't care. I bought all these beautiful baby clothes and she took them all back because a friend of hers had twin girls and they were new preemies, and she had preemie and newborn sizes, and so the girl gave her like one whole set, preemie and 0 to 3 months, and I bought these cute summer 0 to 3 months. Do you mind if I take these back? I have so many 0 to 3 months. Not at all. Go right ahead. Anyway, it's the little things. What are we grateful for? We know we are grateful for all the big things. And like I just said, Memorial Day just passed, and I am extraordinarily grateful to be an American in a land where people are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for others. So that's a biggie. Here's a little one that I'm grateful for. I joined a step bet challenge. What is a step bet challenge, you ask? Well, I'll tell you. Thank you for asking. It is an app. It's called Step Bet, and you can join a challenge. So the way I got involved in this was, as you all know, I'm on Weight Watchers. Anyway, I volunteer my money every month to Weight Watchers, and there is a recipe creator. Words are hard. There is a recipe creator who modifies recipes for Weight Watchers, and then not for the company, but for Weight Watchers members, and then gives you the points and everything. So you don't need to like put it in and figure it out, put it into the app, whatever. She's pounddropper.com, and I think her first name is Stephanie, but I could be wrong. She has I use her recipes all the time, and she has excellent recipes. So I get, you know, her newsletter, daily recipe, whatever it is. She's like, hey, spring step bet challenge. I get an email. I'm like, what is this? I must not have been busy that day, work-wise. And so I look at it, and what it is this. You bet on yourself to hit this goal that is not chosen by you, by the way. So I have a few tips at the end if you decide you want to do this. So it's $40, one-time bet. It's a 6-week program with one warm-up week ahead of it, so 7 weeks. So in your warm-up week, you kind of get to find your groove and you don't get eliminated. But $40 every participant, your $40 goes into the pot. There were 163 participants in this challenge. The pot was $6,520. At the end, whoever's still standing at the end of the warm-up week plus 6 weeks and have not been disqualified, you get your $40 guaranteed back plus whatever's left in the pot. So if there are, I don't know, 100 participants left, that's $4,000, and then you split the difference. And Step Bet takes, I think they take 15% off the top or something for admin and all that, and that's fine. So I was like, $40, do I want to do this? So I thought about it and I thought about it. A few days later, I'm like, let me just download the app and see what happens. And it basically says, we need to access your health data on your Fitbit, your Apple Watch, whatever. And then we calculate what your challenge is going to be. Okay. So I let it calculate. I allow it. I let it calculate. I saw what the steps were. I said, no, not doing it. Absolutely not doing this. No. So that was like on a Friday. That next morning, Joey, forget about it, and I are sitting having coffee in the morning, and I'm like, crazy thing. And I tell him about the Step Bet Challenge, and he's looking at me and he's like, oh my God, I think that's a fantastic idea. You should do it. I said, did you not hear what I said about how many steps I have to walk? And he said, oh my God, you're betting on yourself. So what? You have to do it. I think it would be great. You could do that. He's like, you know, on the days you watch the babies, like, you know how many steps you get. You go to the gym every other day. You're going to get all the steps. What are you worried about? I was like, because it's a lot of steps, and I don't want to lose my $40. And he's like, you spend $40 when you walk through the door at Michael's. It's an automatic $40, even if you go in for a skein of floss that's 63 cents. So why do you care about the $40? He said, you don't care about the $40. You don't want to be in competition, which is true. I'm not competitive like that. I was not a sports girl. I was not that. And if I played tennis and I lost a tennis match, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. But you're only betting against yourself. So it's steps, and everyone is individualized because they're basing it on the number of steps I guess they assess your Apple Health data, and they see what you typically walk, and then they make it how many steps you typically get, and then they make it a challenge. So 4 days a week, you have to hit an active goal. 2 days a week, you have to hit a power goal. 1 day a week, you get a rest. So essentially, you're walking 6 days a week. I mean, if you're not doing some kind of exercise, or you do not have a job that makes you walk, you're not hitting these numbers. I'm not hitting my numbers. You know, I sit at a desk. I show houses. I sit in people's kitchens signing paperwork. I sit at settlement tables. I don't walk. So here are my steps. My active days, so remember, they're the lower steps. 12,591 steps for 4 days. Not over 4 days, each day. You have to hit it for 4 days. My power days, 2 days, have to hit it, each of the two. 15,223 steps. Here's my tip. If you're going to join a Step Bet Challenge, like, you could just download the app, and they have challenges going all the time. They have one now called a flip-flop challenge or something. Lay on the couch for 2 weeks first, because I don't know how far back in your data they go, but apparently they were telling me that on average, I walked about 11,100 steps a day. So clearly that wouldn't be enough. I needed to do 12,591 4 days a week, and 15,223 2 days a week, with one rest day. By the end of the warm-up week, I chose my rest day to be a Friday that week. So I had only done Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And I think 3 of those 4 days I actually hit a power day. So you can go over that number of steps, but you can't even be 1 step under that number, active or power. That Friday, sitting in my Weight Watchers meeting, I thought to myself, I can't even feel my legs. I know they're there because I could see them. I know they're there because I drove my car, and I know they're there because I walked into the meeting. But other than that, they are numb. They're numb. So at the end of that first week, the warm-up week, it says, congratulations, you made it. You walked 48 miles this week. The next week, I walked 50. And last week, I walked 48. And this week isn't looking like any less than that. So far, I'm still in it. I've already hit my 2 power days. So I'm making fun of it. I'm obviously like telling you like, don't do this. This is craziness. But I'm also telling you that it's not really showing up on the scale so much. Like this will be my 3rd weigh-in since I started. You know, down 0.2, down 0.2. All right, so I can't say I really am that good on the weekends. You know, we eat, we go out to eat, we barbecue, whatever. But I will say that I went to a barbecue at my brother and sister-in-law's on Sunday, and I put on a pair of jeans and did not lay on the bed to zip them, that I could not even close last fall. So it might only be 0.4, half a pound maybe down, but definitely working. I feel stronger. Again, not that my legs aren't tired, because they're tired. So long story short, that was a long one. That's what I am grateful for. Joining the Step Bet Challenge. I'm hanging in. I feel like I can finish it. I have to finish out this week. Then I have 2 more. I've sort of got the formula. So barring illness or injury, I will complete this. And then maybe what I'm going to do, I'm not going to stop walking now that I'm kind of in the groove. I am going to probably drop back to 5 days. I think 6 days is excessive for someone my age. Maybe not. Maybe it's not. We'll see. But that's what I would do. I probably wouldn't change anything else. And I wouldn't be so concerned about hitting the number, you know. The numbers are good no matter what. And I've exceeded the active days. I've exceeded the power days. Although it's funny, on my rest day, I must really rest because I don't get anywhere near the active day. So anyway, that's that. That is what I am grateful for. Joining the Step Bet Challenge, I feel like it's good for my health. It's good for my heart. It's good for my genes. Hopefully it'll be good for the Weight Watcher scale this week. Probably not. And I'm grateful that I can do it. As much as I'm moaning and complaining over here, I am very grateful that I can do it. And I feel like I am getting stronger. So tell me what you guys are grateful for. And if you want any more information on this Step Bet Challenge thing, you could just download the Step Bet app and read kind of like the way it works, or reach out to me and I'd be happy to answer your questions. Okay, quickly, book talk. I read 2 books since last we spoke. Both were audiobooks, actually. I'm reading a Dan Brown, Secret of Secrets, like an actual book. You really got to focus on Dan Brown, right? Excellent, excellent books and stories, but not for like I'm also watching TV at the same time kind of thing. Okay, so the book, 2 books, audiobooks, Spider to the Fly by J.H. Markert. And it follows Ellie Isles. She's a true crime author, obsessed with hunting this, I think they call him the I-64 serial killer or something like that. And she has this website she calls the Spider Web. Think Reddit, you know, everybody like mushes around ideas and theories and conspiracies and all of that. And she is a she's young, she's probably only like 37, 38, but she has an 18-year-old daughter named Amber. She's a super helicopter mom to Amber, poor Amber, because, no spoilers, you'll know why. But turns out that like she ends up like on the trail of this serial killer, and there's a lot of good twists if you can get past the fact that Ellie needs to get a life of her own and leave poor Amber alone and let Amber be a senior in high school. You know, I mean, I was pretty strict with my kids, but I wasn't that kind of strict. So you know, she pretty much, if she could put a microchip in the kid's arm, she would have done it. So anyway, that one was pretty good. I'd give it 3.75 maybe. Next one, Malicious Intent by Val McDermid. This is told from various standpoints: the standpoint of the police, the standpoint of the victims, and the standpoint of the murderer. The premise is that the killer picks out lonely women. He crashes weddings and finds like the lonely women sitting by themselves and whatever, and eventually murders them. Like kind of like dates them for a little so their friends all know him, but he's always in disguise. He's always got a different name, a different backstory. But you know pretty early on who it is, and it's not really like earth-shattering. It doesn't connect to anything else. It's not like, oh my God, it's the chief of police. No, literally connects to nothing. So I wrote here, a huge waste of time. I would give it a 1.75. I didn't, and I know Val McDermid writes a lot of books. Oh, and The Cop and The Psychologist, Carol Jordan and Tony somebody, like they apparently are part of a series. Good to know, because I'm going to avoid that series because they have a lot of problems. Okay, moving on. Binge talk. I watched 11/22/63, starring James Franco. Just like what it sounds like. JFK assassination. A man steps through this wormhole to go back to the years prior to JFK's assassination to try to take steps to alter history to avoid that. And but he can't change any other history. So he has to be really, really careful. He also has to make a living there because he's staying, right? He's not going back and forth every day. And the diner owner that he knew really well from his neighborhood, you know, the guy walks out, like, you know, walks into the back and comes back, and James Franco looks at him. This is in present day. Looks at him and says, like, what happened to you? And he said, well, in your world, I was only gone 5 minutes. I've been gone 2.5 years. So there's that. So it's a lot, but it's interesting. It's very interesting if you could sort of suspend reality a little bit. And I kind of feel like they're very, they do lean a certain way regarding the assassination. I would not say that there's a lot of new material. So, it's interesting because he can't alter history, but he has to live there. But he can't alter history, but he has to alter history, right? So, I actually have one episode left, ironically, so I can't even tell you how it plays out, which would be the big moment, right? Because I don't know yet. So, all right, so that's pretty much everything I have. So if all goes well, I'm going to say goodbye now, and you will see me dressed different in a different location. I'm actually sitting at my desk when I recorded the true crime story. If you're not interested, then this would be where we say goodbye until next month. And the story I chose, I think if you remember last month, what I told you was, I felt like the story I chose first and recorded is super relevant and very, very important, but a little heavy to start. Not that all, you know, murders and whatever aren't, but you know what I mean? Like a little, if you knew what I was talking about, you know what I'm talking about. This story I had never heard of. It's very interesting, and it seems like it's a little known story, and it takes place at a college in New Jersey in 1977. So it's only about 10 minutes, and I hope you enjoy it, and I am sure my storytelling skills will get better as time goes on. And if you hated it, let me know, and I won't keep recording them. But I thought it'd just be something a little fun at the end, especially because I seem to be producing less whips, and I will certainly be producing less next month. So let me know what you think. Tell me what you're grateful for. Leave your comments below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the true crime story, or I will see you next month. Bye. Hi, FLOSSTUBE. Welcome to my channel, Stitching in South Jersey. My name is Debbie, and today is, how could I forget, May 12th, 2026. It is my number 2 child's birthday. This is not about stitching. If all goes well, this will be added on to the end of my April stitching update. I talked about it in my last video, my March stitching update. I think that was FLOSSTUBE number 18. Many of you responded enthusiastically. For some reason, stitching and true crime seems to go hand in hand, along with coffee and tea and animals, pets. So while it is not a true crime minute, I'm going to try and make it a true crime 10 minutes. And the story I have for you today, I had never heard of, and I am a lifelong resident of New Jersey, and I've never heard this story before. If you watch my last FLOSSTUBE, you'll know I did record a different story that I opted not to use yet. They're all heavy, and they're all sad, and they're all horrible. But even though that one was very important in the way that laws were changed and things are now done, it was a little heavy to start with. So this one I'd never heard of, and I found it very interesting. And I do have notes, so I will occasionally look down because I want to make sure I get it all right. And I will give you my source for my story, and you could read in much more detail if you're interested. This is the story of Sigrid Stevenson. Sigrid Stevenson was a 25-year-old master's student at TCNJ, which is in Mercer County. It was formerly Trenton State University, and it would have been Trenton State University when Sigrid attended in 1977. So to give you a little background on Sigrid, she was 25 years old, as I said. She was blue-eyed with short reddish brown hair. She was described as being, quote, a bit of a hippie and a vagabond, end quote. She was a free spirit. She did not have a lot of belongings, and I believe her family came from California, if I'm not mistaken. She was described as having a very eclectic wardrobe. She was a loner, quirky, very smart, and she was a classical piano prodigy at 8 years old. She could listen to Beethoven and play it back. Good for her. She wanted to be a music teacher after graduation, and that is what she was getting her master's degree in, some sort of music degree. So because she was a loner, she spent a lot of time hitchhiking and exploring on her own. She was known to go all over the place. And on her way to Trenton State University to start her fall semester in September of 1977, she stopped in New York and stopped all the way, all different places on her way. As a result, she got to campus 4 days before the semester started, but the house where she was renting a room for her fall semester, the homeowners were away at the Jersey Shore still on, I guess, Labor Day vacation, and they were not there to let her into the house yet because she arrived a little bit early. So she needed somewhere to stay, right? It was 4 days until classes started, and she had to sleep somewhere. She, was a student. She couldn't really afford to, go stay in a hotel. So she started sleeping in Kendall Hall. Kendall Hall was the building where the theaters were located. There was a main stage theater, and there was at least one side theater. And in the theater, there was a room, think like a green room, I guess, like a waiting room, with a couch that she slept on. And we know she slept there because there was a play the night before she was murdered, and the cast saw her, startled her in that room, um, sleeping when they went in to get ready to put on their play. And their play was in the side theater, not the main theater where the crime happened. But I guess they all used this green room. And she stayed up late a lot of the time. And so it was probably early evening or late afternoon, and she was asleep on the couch, and they found her there with her belongings and all of that. The reason she chose Kendall Hall is because there was a piano on the main stage, and she would play the piano during the day or in the middle of the night to pass the time, and typically was undisturbed because, again, the students had not returned yet. So she was really, really there all by herself. So the details of the crime are this. On the night of September 4th, 1977, a campus police officer on patrol saw a bicycle that was chained to a railing outside of Kendall Hall. Nobody should have been really on campus, but certainly not in Kendall Hall. So he went there to investigate. And he found blood drops and puddles and followed those blood drops and puddles to the main stage, and that is where he came upon Sigrid. She was beaten to death, and her sheet music was sitting on the piano right next to her on the stage. She was found naked and face down. She was partially wrapped with a piano cover and a blouse, presumably her blouse, tied around her head and her neck. The autopsy stated that she bled to death from blows to her head and her face as well, with a blunt, hard object. That object was not left at the scene of the crime. The medical examiner did not speculate as to what the object could be. Just a blunt, hard object. So, the detectives and the investigators that took the case felt, and for years afterwards, felt that a campus police officer may have committed the crime because they had keys to the hall. Nobody would have thought twice about them being present on the campus or in any one of the buildings at any time. And it just kind of made sense because really, who else would have known she was in there? Nobody, again, students were not back yet. So that is what they focused on. They photographed everyone in the campus police force and fingerprinted them and tested their nightsticks because that was indeed a blunt object, and their handcuffs, looking for blood because there was evidence that Sigrid may have been handcuffed. And I couldn't find anything more detailed about that. They don't know whether she was sexually assaulted. They believe They did find sperm, but it could have been consensual. They don't know. She's a 25-year-old young woman. So they didn't know. And I didn't read anything. There's not a lot of information on this, ironically, because it you know did happen smack in the middle of the state on a very large school campus, on a state school campus. So there wasn't a lot of information about that. And one officer's home was actually searched. Again, not a lot of information on why that one officer, and not sure if it was the officer that found her. I would argue probably not. You know, how dumb of a criminal do you have to be? You commit the crime and then you play the hero finding the body. Okay, I take that back. That happens all the time. But it shouldn't, because it's stupid. Other suspects they had were members of that local theater group. So it wasn't the school theater group. It was a local theater group that used Kendall Hall and the theaters, I guess, in the off, maybe not even in the off semester, but maybe all the time. And this group was the group that had a performance in the side theater the night before and came across Sigrid sleeping on the couch in the green room waiting area, the actors area. She had attended that play that night before, and she had a playbill among her belongings. And in that playbill, she had circled the name of one of the actors in the play. And that actor played a police officer in the play, complete with nightstick and handcuffs. So they certainly considered that as a big possibility. They also considered, for the same reason they considered campus police officers, they also considered maintenance employees. Same reason. They had accessibility. They wouldn't have been thought about twice going in and out of whatever building. It would have been normal. They did find a diary among her things, but it did not seem to be valuable to the investigation, and I couldn't find anything that detailed what was in that diary, but apparently it wasn't about boyfriends or friends or other people or anything like that. But all of this and not enough evidence to arrest anyone. Just simply not enough evidence. And remember, this is 1977. You can't test anything for DNA. They wouldn't have even known anything about DNA. So the case went cold, unfortunately. And now it's back under examination. It had, I believe, Mercer County was given a grant for a cold case squad. Don't quote me on that, on who it was, but it was re-examined by cold case squad. They went back through all of the evidence, and when the case was re-examined, they decided that the campus police officer theory just simply did not hold up. There was no evidence. Nothing came of their searches, of their examination of the nightsticks and the handcuffs. There just simply was nothing there. But the theory about the actor playing the police officer did hold up. So, the new investigators submitted anything that could be tested for comparison with the actor's relatives, because the actor himself died in 2016. So remember, he was an actor in 2016. He may not have been a college student because it was a local theater group. He could have been in his 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s even then. So he was no longer alive to get DNA from. And they did have in evidence blood, sperm, and clothing that they would have assumed that the killer touched. No one knows for sure if she was assaulted or it was consensual, like I said. But all of the blood tested was Sigrid's, and there were no viable fingerprints found. None. So now they're just waiting for the DNA on the actor's relatives to come back. And eventually the test did come back, and the actor's relatives were not a match. So he, after all these years, was no longer considered a suspect, because, I mean, it's a shame they couldn't have done it a lot earlier, and he probably wouldn't have lived under that kind of cloud of suspicion, at least as far as the investigators went. I don't know if it was broadcast that he was a suspect. So now they are hoping that the evidence they have, they will be able to use genetic genealogy to help solve this, to narrow it down to someone. But so far, that is a process, and that requires a lot of money. Those kinds of searches and trees that get put together cost a lot of money and take a lot of time. And they continue to work on it, and they will continue to wait, and hopefully it will get solved. I had two thoughts when I was reading this story. One was, somebody followed her into that theater. Trenton State University, as you might suspect, is in Trenton. And, it's not like it's on, it's in rural Iowa where, the next closest spot is 20 miles away, where someone would be. This is Trenton. It's a city in New Jersey. There are people walking around. They could have followed her. She could have been in a coffee shop talking to somebody. She could have been standing somewhere getting lunch or dinner and struck up a conversation, maybe invited this person back. There's really no way to know, and it could honestly and truly be anyone. And because her diary didn't detail that, we're never really going to know how this killer connected with her, unless they find the killer and the killer opts to confess. And we all know that's not going to happen, but that would be very nice. The other thing I thought about was, what if it was someone she met along the way and brought along with her? Nobody came forward saying they ever saw her with anybody, but nobody really came forward saying they saw her. So although this school is in a city in New Jersey, not a town, but a city, the state capital, in fact, which does operate year round, the campus itself was very deserted. So it doesn't say whether the cops, went to all the nearby coffee shops and, places where she could have eaten. She had to eat somewhere, right? Grocery stores where she had to buy food. It doesn't say anything about that. So we don't know whether anybody ever saw her with anyone else. Her personality does not lend itself to that. By all accounts, she was a loner, and she was very quirky, and she was very, very smart and very focused on her studies. So it doesn't seem like she's gonna, she sure didn't wander into a bar in the 4 days since she got to Trenton and picked up some guy and said, "Hey, come on back to my theater." It doesn't seem likely at all. But someone saw her. So whether it was she met up with someone, or someone followed her, which could be very likely, She did have a bike, but maybe she didn't take the bike anywhere. It'd be hard to follow her on a bike, but it would not be very hard to follow her um, on foot if she was walking. And now that I say that, how did she get a bike across the country? Because she hitchhiked. So how'd she get her bike across the country? So maybe it wasn't even her bike. Oh, look, a clue. Why are we assuming it was her bike? Right? Maybe it wasn't. So that's my story. Sigrid Stevenson, sort of lost among the archives, but not at TCNJ, which was, it's now the College of New Jersey, TCNJ, but it was Trenton State for a very, very long time, and certainly was when Sigrid was there. But she's not completely forgotten, because there are stories, ghost stories, that people see a young woman in Kendall Hall, and she is not of this plane. So do with that what you will, but I thought this was an obscure story that deserved to be told and has yet to be solved, and hopefully will be someday, with more and more advances in technology, or maybe just thinking it out loud like we're doing right now, right? So that's it. If all goes well, this will be attached to the end of my next FLOSSTUBE video, which I will probably record and upload in the next week or so. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the story, and any pointers you have, anything you want to hear that I didn't mention. And again, all credit goes to NewJersey.com, was my only source material. I did look at other sources, but nobody said anything more than NewJersey.com did. There were like little snippets here and there, and some things I couldn't even get into, like the old archives of Trenton State, the campus newspapers and all of that. I could not access that. But from what I could access, NewJersey.com had the most comprehensive story. Everything else was just kind of a top line summary of what NewJersey.com said. So that's my story. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. See you in the next FLOSSTUBE. Bye.